Is holistic grazing effective in cold climates? And what is its effect on inedible or invasive broadleaf species? In this video, we'll begin to answer that question. Eventually, I will upload an in-depth video about the results of holistic grazing that we have seen on my family's farm, which is located at 45 degrees north, with an average of 4 to 5 months of total snow coverage. But for now, I will just share a couple pictures and explain my personal research. Before we owned our farm, the pasture-lined area was continuously grazed with 50 cow-calf pairs year-round. The result of this was that all areas with slope were severely eroded and all topsoil was lost in these areas, with organic matter-rich topsoil being concentrated in valleys. We bought the land and let it rest for about 4 years before we got cattle and started to graze it again. In the meantime, all of the areas without topsoil had become exclusively colonized by the invasive species spotted knapweed. Spotted knapweed is generally inedible to cattle, although they will eat the flower, which I have pictured here. Furthermore, this plant is allelopathic, which means it poisons other plants which are germinating, which also prevents them from growing. In my undergraduate research, excluding recently plowed areas, I found a correlation between adding lime and decrease in knapweed frequency. I noticed that there was a correlation between increasing fertility and knapweed disappearance, but was unable to complete my research because I moved to South Korea instead. So, while I don't have soil test organic matter percentage numbers or quantitative percentages of how much ground was covered by knapweed then versus now, what I can say for certain based on photographs I took is that in 2006, the hillsides were dominated by knapweed with some sheep sorrel and bare ground and moss. Now, after most of the knapweed has been outcompeted by grasses, they are now holding the topsoil in place. Here is a comparison of two photos, one taken in August of 2006 and one in August of 2021. The area outlined in red is the area dominated by knapweed. Based on my observation, what we are seeing is that the inedible knapweed is decreasing due to 1. Not being a plant species that is adapted to being grazed periodically, and 2. That the edible grasses are given a competitive advantage by the intensive grazing. 3. This method results in more fertile soils and knapweed prefers to go in infertile environments. Tens of thousands of acres of land in North America have been invaded by spotted knapweed in the past few decades. This resulted in significant financial losses to farmers since cattle don't like to eat it. Because of this, I recommend intensive grazing method to both increase fertility and also reduce the spotted knapweed invasion. We can see this has been effective on my farm, and I think it can be effective on other people's farms as well. This last photo was taken in May 2024 when I took a trip back home. What I noticed this time is that the knapweed-dominated hillsides had grass starting to fill in those areas as well. Interesting, the area most populated by knapweed was visible from a distance, even you can see in this picture, as a ghostly lighter area along most of the fence lines, since cattle avoid eating plants that grow under the electric wire. I will keep monitoring the health of our land to see how it responds to intensive grazing, but also how it responds to other methods such as feeding hay during the winter in pasture areas and also spreading activated biochar. I hope to do a video about biochar in the future so that you can learn from my experiments as well.